Your money, your stories, your freedom. The Peter Schiff Show.
Welcome, everybody. This is Peter Schiff here at SchiffRadio.com. We're taking your calls, 855-4SCHIFF, 855-4SCHIFF. No, we don't have a guest until the top of the next hour, so plenty of time for people who want to call in. Interestingly, too, the guest that I have coming up at the top of the next hour is a businessman who happened to see the video of my congressional testimony, and basically I had a similar story of how regulators basically prevented him from hiring and expanding and ultimately caused him to give up on what would have been a profitable endeavor employing many people, but the regulators simply made it too difficult. So he's going to be joining us at the top of the next hour. You know, also it's unfortunate we really blew an opportunity to have that video that was originally put up that contained about 22 and a half minutes of the 2-hour congressional testimony. Basically, it was my words that were edited out. We had somebody had actually, had put that up on the internet, and then we helped promoted it. We sent out an email blast to the Euro-Pacific Metals database. We didn't do it to my larger database because the Europac compliance department wanted to edit it up. They thought we were a little too rough on the regulators, so they wanted to take out some of the harsher comments. So we decided to promote it through a non-regulated entity so we could not censor it. But in any event, the video started to get picked up. It started to get a lot of play. It was getting on a lot of mainstream websites that had never shown any Peter Schiff stuff, and the video was rapidly climbing. It went up to about 120,000 views very quickly on a Friday, and I think it had the potential to go viral and reach a wide audience, especially with some of the other media I was getting at the time on Fox News. There was a lot of interest in that testimony, and unfortunately, the video that we linked to, the guy who put it up there took it down, and so basically destroyed all the potential of the video going viral because none of the links worked. And so nobody could watch it, and therefore nobody saw it, nobody sent it to their friends, and so all the momentum was lost. And the comedy of errors happened because apparently the guy that put it up, the video that I linked to, he had copied the video from somebody else who had uploaded it a few hours earlier. The person who uploaded it earlier complained that he thought that the guy that copied his work had stolen his work, and that he was going to call YouTube on him. And then the other guy panicked and just deleted the entire thing. And so the whole thing is a giant mess, and so all the momentum got destroyed. I'm going to try to rekindle it a little bit if I can. I'm going to send out the video again. I'm going to do my own version, so I won't have to worry about somebody turning it off. And then I'm going to mail a slightly edited for compliance version to my entire Europac database, which has much larger database than the metals. I'm going to email that out, and I'll try to put it up on my YouTube channel. So if you do get an email from me with a link to my testimony, check it out. Even if you've seen it before, watch it again so we at least can try to get the view counts up there. Maybe put a comment on that. We had about 1,500 comments on that video before it was taken down. So, if you commented on the old video, hey, comment on the new one. We'll see if we can generate some kind of YouTube buzz. The problem is I doubt we'll be able to replicate what was going on online, because a lot of the websites that originally, caught on to this and put it up on their front pages, now they'll look at it as old news. They've already covered it. So I don't know that we'll be successful in getting them to do it all over again because the links on their sites don't work. Sites like Breitbart or Pajama TV or Zero Hedge or Fox News, and there are a number of sites that really were running with the story. So I don't know that they'll resurrect it, but we could give it a shot. And I don't know that we have the potential to do 2 million views like we might have got had the old one stayed up, but I don't know, we might get a couple 100,000 views. But I think it's important that more people see that testimony and begin to understand what's going on in this country, and that the source of the problems is government, that government is not the solution to the problems. Also on YouTube, if you want to check out I spoke briefly, maybe about 5 or 7 minutes last night over at Webster Hall, introducing Ron Paul to a very enthusiastic crowd of supporters. I think there's about 1,500 people packed into Webster Hall in Manhattan last night, so it was a very a successful event. Ron Paul had a couple of fundraisers. Prior to that, nice crowd of people there as well, as the congressman is trying to raise money to continue his campaign. In fact, he came to the fundraisers directly from Jon Stewart. He was finally, again, he had been on the Jon Stewart show before. He had a chance to be on again. I just watched it. I didn't watch it live last night. I was still in the city, but I watched it this morning up on the Daily Show website. Pretty good interview. So if you want to check it out, you can check it out on thedailyshow.com. Meanwhile, turning attention to the markets, we're getting a big rally following yesterday's big rally. The Dow's up about 240 points. I think we had a plus 200-point day yesterday. Asian markets, big movers last night. They didn't recover yesterday, so we had big moves. Hong Kong was up over 4%. So a lot of the Asian stocks that have been smashed on Monday really came back on Tuesday. Same story in precious metals. I'm looking at the ETFs, or the GLD, up the equivalent of $40. Silver up about $2, back well above the $30 level, more around $32. We did get as low yesterday as in the SLV. We got to $27.40. I think we took out a lot of stops. My bet is that there were plenty of stops that were layered in below that $30 level. A lot of people that were probably trading never believed that the market would get that low, and I bet so they really ate those stops for lunch. To me, it looks like there is a good chance that the low is in for this correction. Hey, there are no guarantees out there, but you look at these charts, I think those lows were pretty significant. I do not expect a retest of that low. I think that what we did do is we took out the stops that were layered in below the May 13th low, and so we're back above those levels. I guess we could have a clearer picture if we see how this rally goes. If we can hold these gains and gap up again tomorrow, that would be even more convincing evidence. The gold and silver mining stocks up about 2.6% on the day. They're very strong. Dollar, again, heading the other direction. The dollar is down across the board. Dollar index down just over 1%. Oil up almost $3 a barrel. Again, all these assets in positive correlation. Treasury bonds, as you might guess today, getting clobbered. The yield on the 30-year is all the way back up, and, of course, it's still not very high, back up to 3.1%. The 10-year is still below 2%, but it's at 1.985. It looks like it's almost lost back all of its gains since the announcement of Operation Twist. But it's still, maybe we need one more daylight today, and all those gains will have been surrendered. We'll see if that momentum continues downward in the bond market and upward in long-term interest rates. Anyway, stick around. We got people on hold. If you want to call 855-4SHIP, we'll be right back here on SchiffRadio.com.
The Peter Schiff Show. To President Obama, Secretary Geithner, Madam Pelosi, and all of the socialist econ professors across America, we're sorry. We're sorry. Peter Schiff is back on the air.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Peter Schiff here at SchiffRadio.com. We are taking calls 855-4SCHIFF. And before I go to the phones, I wanted to play a little sound from a press conference. And to me, maybe it was an orchestrated show with shills in the audience. It seems that way. Here's some sound from one particular gentleman who happens to be asking a question. He's basically asking President Obama to raise his taxes, that taxes are just not high enough on rich people like him. Listen to what he has to say. It's cut number one.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have a job, but that's because I've been lucky enough to live in Silicon Valley for a while and work for a small startup down the street here that did quite well. So I'm unemployed by choice. My question is, would you please raise my taxes?
Well, pretty please with sugar on top, would you please raise my taxes? If he wants to pay more taxes, just pay. Nothing's stopping him. But, you know, if he really wants to help the economy grow, instead of asking the government to take more money away from him, why doesn't he take that money and invest it in other startups? Why doesn't he fund like a fund to help other people start up businesses so that other people have the same opportunity he did to get rich? And he didn't get rich because he got lucky, although probably there is some luck involved. But he got rich because of capitalism, because of freedom, because the government didn't take too much money away from the entrepreneurs. So there was some money available to start the little search engine company that he worked for. And in fact, Tim Carney did a little research on this guy. I know Tim, he's working with me on my next book. He did some research, and it turns out the man's name is Doug Edwards, and he worked at Google. And since 2000, he has given over $300,000 of the money that capitalism was able to allow him to earn, not government. And he has given $300,000 to politicians. But does he really believe? So he's got money, and he wants the government to take it from him. Does he really think the U.S. government is going to do a better job with that money than he would? Wouldn't it be better just to fund some new startups with some good ideas, to set up a venture fund, you know, to give companies the seed capital to grow? Wouldn't that be a better use of his money there in Silicon Valley? He can't find some worthwhile enterprises to invest in. He'd rather have the U.S. government just take the money. And, you know, of course, he can even give it to charity. If he really thinks that the government should have the money to help the poor, wouldn't it be better to just give the money directly to charities that are helping the poor? After all, if the government takes, let's say, an extra $100,000 from him in taxes, maybe $10,000 of it is going to go to the poor, and $90,000 of it is going to be recirculated in government bureaucracy. How about just take the $100,000 and give it to charities, where $90,000 will go to the poor? It's absolutely ridiculous for somebody to be pleading with the government to take their money. I mean, there's no way that this guy is not a shill there or a plant for the president to basically. I mean, talk about a layup. To throw to the president. Anyway, here's the rest of this, cut number 2.
I would like very much to have the country to continue to invest in things like Pell Grants and infrastructure and job training programs that made it possible for me to get to where I am. And it kills me to see Congress not supporting the expiration of the tax cuts that have been benefiting so many of us for so long. I think that needs to change, and I hope that you'll stay strong in doing that.
Well, I appreciate it. What was the startup, by the way? You want to give me a little hint?
It's a search engine.
Yeah, Google. But anyway, so he's trying to claim that the reason he was successful is because of Pell Grants. No, that's not why he was successful. He's claiming it was because of infrastructure and job training programs. Give me a break. You know, none of this is responsible for his success. But if he really believes that government Pell Grants is what is responsible for our growth, if we really need more money into education, why doesn't he set up his own? He's got a lot of money. Why doesn't he set up his own endowment or his own scholarship program for kids who excel in certain areas? Why doesn't he help? He doesn't need the government. What is he waiting for? If he really thinks that the solution is to have more money available to bid up college tuitions, he doesn't need the government to do that. He can do it all on his own. You see, what he really wants, he doesn't really want Obama to raise his taxes. He wants Obama to raise everybody else's taxes. That's what he really wants. See, he's pretending it's, well, yes, I want my taxes to go up. No. He wants everybody else's taxes to go up because he doesn't really want to fund all these things. He wants somebody else to do it, and he wants the government to force those decisions on them. Anyway, it's really crazy stuff. But let me go to the phones. Who's on hold? David calling from Belmar, New Jersey. David, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah, hi. You may remember me. I'm the Libertarian Party candidate for Assembly here. And, before Ron Paul was in the city last night, he visited the State House in Trenton, New Jersey here, and I was at that with my wife. And it was great. The crowd was really huge and very excited, and Ron was great as usual. But I wanted to mention he was here to accept the endorsement of a state senator, Mike Doherty. And I know you have that political action committee, to push pro-liberty candidates and to help them. And, a lot of people want him to run for U.S. Senate next year. And this guy is really formidable. He's a West Point graduate, 3 children in the military, fantastic state senator. He's really one of us. And, if you saw his speech, I don't know if you saw it on YouTube, his speech endorsing Ron Paul, it was great. It was really exciting. And I think this guy bears further watching, Doherty, Doherty. But my question is, or I have a question. Do you want to respond to what I said first, or?
Well, I haven't seen the speech on YouTube. I'll try to make a point to check it out. But, we do have that political action committee, Make Schiff happen. We are collecting donations. We will begin to start distributing that money to some of the candidates that we think will do well. I haven't given any money to Ron Paul because I gave money personally because I figured that people could give. Everybody knows about Ron Paul, and people are giving him money directly. So I want to try to find the candidates that not everybody knows about and try to help them and maybe put them on the radar screen. But I did donate. I did give Ron Paul the maximum check personally. So that money came out of my personal funds, didn't come out of the PAC funds.
Well, we have a Senate race coming up next year. We have an incumbent Democrat who's one of the worst senators, Menendez. And, our Governor Christie is backing this mainstream Republican state senator, Carrillos, to run for U.S. Senate. And this guy, Mike Doherty, is much, much better. Really, he really bears checking out. The guy is fantastic and a really exciting politician. And he could be a really good asset to our cause. But my question is about bubble formation. I know when we have artificially low interest rates due to money printing, and then that money tends to be invested in in things like speculation, like housing or .com, stocks or whatever. But what would be? How come that kind of money is invested, in things in bubble formation kind of investments? Whereas if we had a market economy with market interest rates, and let's say savings were high, so interest rates were low, and why would that money be more likely to be invested in productive enterprises?
Yeah, well, I'll answer that question. We got a commercial coming up, so hold on. We'll be right back here at Peter Schiff Radio on Peter Schiff Show at SchiffRadio.com.
The Peter Schiff Show. We now return to the Peter Schiff Show. Call in now, 855-4-SCHIFF. That's 855-472-4433. Radio, the Peter Schiff Show.
This is Peter Schiff here at SchiffRadio.com, and I was talking with David up in New Jersey, asking me about malinvestments and interest rates. And, David, the problem is you have to understand the difference between legitimate savings, bringing interest rates down, and money printing, bringing interest rates down. When you have real savings, that means people are under-consuming. People are saving money that they're not spending today to spend in the future, which means there is investment capital to satisfy that future demand. And so what happens is businesses take those resources, the money that is not spent, and use it to fund investments to meet not today's demand for consumer goods, but tomorrow's demand for consumer goods, because people's time preferences are shifting as they are preferring savings to consumption, and that is what makes these investments possible and viable. Because resources are being set aside to fund the capital formation, and the future demand will be there as people who save today look to spend those savings tomorrow. But what happens when the government steps in and artificially simulates a increase in savings, but there is no real increase in savings, there is no underconsumption, there are no resources being set aside for future consumption, all the resources are being spent on current consumption, you're sending this false economic signal to the marketplace, which results in investments being made that really cannot be supported by the true time preferences and savings and consumption patterns of the public. And so you end up with malinvestments instead of legitimate investments that ultimately have to be liquidated as we unwind those mistakes at grave consequences to the economy. Does that make sense?
Well, but wouldn't people want houses like both now and in the future?
Well,
like, what would make
a lot of the demand for housing was not because people needed shelter. A lot of the people who were buying houses had shelter. They just were renting, and they would normally prefer to rent, but there was an artificial demand to buy based on the appeal of instant wealth. People were buying houses to get rich, not because they needed a place to live. In fact, all else being equal, they might have preferred the convenience of renting, but they were willing to forego that convenience for the benefits, the monetary benefits of buying a house. But those were all a creation of the bubble. And because interest rates were so low, there was a lot of money put into housing, but the rates weren't low because people had enough savings to finance all this home building. It was because the government had just artificially suppressed them.
I see. I think it seems to me like there would be a desire for consumer goods both now and in the future, and to build a factory to build like widgets or whatever. They would want to buy them now, both now and like in the future, if they had a lot of savings. You know, if they have cheap money to spend.
It's more important than that. You cannot build the factory without resources that are saved. A very simplistic explanation is in my book, How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. Have you read that book?
I have it. Yes.
Yeah, it illustrates that the only way that they could build the net was if they stopped fishing for a while, and so they had to underconsume. And when they built the Waterworks project, they couldn't have afforded that project unless they had a lot of saved fish, because the people on the island who were building the Waterworks weren't fishing themselves. They had to eat. So where was their food going to come from? Their food had to come from the fish that other people saved, that other people didn't consume. That's what allowed the other people who were building the Waterworks project not to have to fish. Their building the project was supported by the savings of the rest of the island. If there were no savings, if everybody was simply eating all the fish they caught, there would have been no way to support the workers who were building the Waterworks, because they would have starved. They would have had to go out fishing for themselves.
But why doesn't cheap money from the Fed build nets?
Because cheap money doesn't do anything. I mean, think about the island in How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. Think about those three men on an island who were fishing every day. What if some central banker came on and just dumped dollar bills on them, and they all had thousands of dollars or millions of dollars? How would that have changed anything? Just adding money into an economy does nothing. What they needed was the capital. They needed the nets. And just having a bunch of money wasn't going to give them any nets, unless they could use the money and fashion it into a net. But having money, all they would have done is bid up the price of fish. They wouldn't have had any more fish to eat. They just would have been eating some really expensive fish.
Right. Okay, I get it. Well, thanks for everything you do, Peter, and thanks for taking my call.
Sure. Thanks for calling. Next up is Chris calling from Washington, D.C. Chris, welcome to the Peter Schiff Show.
Peter, how's it going?
It's going okay. How's it going with you?
I'm doing well. I'm calling from Washington, D.C. area. I'm actually from New Hampshire, and I'm calling to talk to you about one specific thing, which is Rock the Revolution Tour, this tour that we're doing to promote Ron Paul's movement. And Ron Paul says himself, if you want a real revolution in this country, there's got to be two things, music and young people. And you can find that at rocktherevolutiontour.com. But I'll get back to that. I really want to talk to you about the Google guy that you just talked about that asked the president if you could take more tax money from him. I mean,
he was begging him. He was almost like getting ready to drop down on his knees and beg Obama to take more of his money.
This is crazy, and this is exactly why you need to run for Senate again, because I've read your book, Crash Proof, and it is excellent. I recommend it to so many people, and I invested in the Merck Fund after reading your book. And this is exactly why you need to run for Senate again and don't give up. It's because people like that and people like Obama, they are elitists. If they truly believe that people with PhDs and people that have never had real business experience know more what to do with our money than we do. And that is it's so un-American to me. And I just want to touch on that. I don't want to waste too much time on elitism in America, but that's what that is.
And the thing about this individual is there was some luck involved. I mean, capitalism is what put him in a position to get lucky, but he basically won the equivalent of a lottery. I mean, he probably just took a job with Google, and Google just was a phenomenal success, and he just hit the jackpot and cashed out, and he's unemployed. I mean, what is he doing? He's not working. He's not doing anything to create jobs. You know, why is he unemployed? Why is he just sitting on his butt and spending money, enjoying the fruits of capitalism? What he should be doing is helping other people experience the same joys by making investments, by putting the money back in the economy. Instead, he's just sitting on his butt, spending the money that he worked he didn't work very hard to make this money, I'm sure. Who knows what kind of cushy job he happened to have at Google? Who knows how big a part, if any part, he happened to really play in the success of Google? But it had a huge IPO, and he cashed out and made a bundle of money. And now what does he want to do? He wants to dole it out to Democratic politicians and try to undermine the very economic system that is responsible for his good fortune.
Yeah, but Peter, people like this are never going to want to just give money to startups or give money to, the areas of the economy that you're...
No, you don't give it. You invest it. Have him try to make a buck. I want him to evaluate companies based on their profit potential. And if he can't do it, there are plenty of venture capitalists up in Silicon Valley who have a good track record of spotting talent. Invest in those funds. I mean, help grow the economy. Don't help the government tear down the economy. That's what he's doing.
I agree. And Peter, the thing is that we could talk about all these issues that are really bad in facing America, but I want to specifically talk to you about Rock the Revolution Tour and how to get Ron Paul elected, because, if Ron Paul doesn't get elected this time, and if Ron Paul's issues aren't the forefront of, our entire political agenda as a country as of 2012 forward, we are in serious trouble, and I'm in the military. I truly believe this. I support Ron Paul, and I have since 2007, and he's the reason why I know about you, and I support you, and I'm telling you, Peter, I really hope you run for senator again and don't give up. We need your voice in Congress. It has to be there, and Ron Paul has to be there as president. And Rock the Revolution Tour, which kicks off October 15th, I mean, it's going to be a monumental tour across the country in order to get Ron Paul people to the polls and also get new people interested in Ron Paul. I mean, what do you think about this? And if you'd ask me...
Yeah, well, if Ron Paul becomes president, hey, my voice won't be needed in the Senate. His voice will resonate through that body even more effectively. So if we can get Ron Paul in, I think that's potentially a game changer. But even if Ron Paul loses, right, let's say that happens, the ideas are not going to die. They're just going to get more and more popular. I mean, talking to him last night, I mean, he is so amazed at just how much more support he has from 4 years ago to today. And it is growing, and he's got a good chunk of the mainstream Republicans, maybe a 10%, which is a good milestone, a good place to build. So the momentum is going to gain momentum. The movement, rather, is going to gain a momentum regardless. So, and as more of his economic predictions come true, and they will come true, the economy is going to get worse. Inflation will run out of control. There will be a lot more unemployment. More and more people are going to be looking to Ron Paul for solutions because he's the one that warned about them and understood the problem. And if it's not Ron Paul, it will be people that share Ron Paul's beliefs. And fortunately, he's got his son as Rand, and so there's already a senator in there that obviously was raised by Ron Paul, and so obviously had a good role model. But hey, thanks for your call. Thanks for your support. We will be back. We've got another segment coming up before the break. This is Peter Schiff here at SchiffRadio.com.
The Peter Schiff Show. Since the Peter Schiff Show was last on the air, the national debt added another $7.89 million. Luckily, Peter's intelligence is growing twice as fast.
That's incredible.
Welcome back to your source of sanity in an insane world. It's the Peter Schiff Show.
And this is Peter Schiff here at SchiffRadio.com. On hold from New York is Chris. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Peter. I have a comment about technology and how it brings down the cost of what it's producing. I work in telecommunications and for the last 11 years, and steadily the cost of basically all services is going down. And what I do is fairly unregulated. And it's such a joke to me that healthcare costs are going up. And the argument sometimes is that, well, nowadays you can do more. You can test for more things. Well, it's the same thing is true in telecommunications. You can get text messages, the cellular, you can video chat. But the thing is, what you could do 20 years ago, you can for sure do cheaper today. So individually, component by component, healthcare has to be coming down. The true cost.
Well, it should be coming down, and you're right. The fact that the healthcare is better, the fact that we now have a machine, let's say, that can replace invasive surgery. We now have scanners that we can tell if somebody has a problem without having to perform an operation. I mean, all this new technology to diagnose things should be bringing the cost of healthcare down overall. Even if there is one expensive machine, that machine should be replacing a lot more operations that in total would cost more than the cost of that machine. And the reason that we're not getting the benefit of lower prices in health is because of government. Government has gotten in there and screwed it up and stopped capitalism from working. And the industry that you're in, if they had the same dynamics as in healthcare, then you'd be seeing the same thing. Prices would be going up for technology. And people would be saying, why is technology so much more expensive? And the answer would be, because it's so much better. Look at all the things that you can do. Look at the speed. Look at the features. Of course, computers cost more today than they cost 20 years ago. 20 years ago, they barely did anything. That's what they would be saying. They would be justifying the big increase in the cost of computers because of how much better computers were. That's exactly what they'd be saying.
Right, and then just a final comment. What's funny is that it's actually cheaper to call so-called communist countries like China and Russia than it is to call parts of the United States due to one reason: taxes and regulatory fees. So when you see Vonage or these other companies throwing in, they say free international, they're not doing it because they're charitable. They're doing it because it's actually cheaper than for them to complete a call within the United States. That's how crazy and insane it's gotten.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks for the call. Talk about crazy. Speaking about crazy and ridiculous, I want to play a series of clips, which is from a CNN. Piers Morgan had Michael Moore, documentary, liberal documentist, discussing capitalism. And it's very interesting because first, Michael Moore claims that, yes, he's gotten rich in America, but not because of capitalism. The capitalism is still evil. And listen to how this starts up. But cut number 3.
Is capitalism in itself wrong? And the reason I ask you that, you're a very, very successful, very rich filmmaker, apart from everything else you do. In a way, that is capitalism. I mean, you've got a business.
Is it
you have
really?
a company.
Oh.
Isn't it in its purest sense? Isn't it?
What pure? There's nothing pure about capitalism.
Is it not, though?
That's not capitalism.
What is it?
First of all, I do well. For a documentary filmmaker, I do really well. I'm very blessed and fortunate that people want to go see my movies. The only reason I do well is because so many millions want to go see my movies. If they didn't like the movies, they would go see them, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here. So there you go.
But that's capitalism. That's not, in a way, capitalism. That is the very nature of capitalism. Michael Moore produces films. that satisfy the demands of his audience who enjoys his films. They're entertained to the extent that they're willing to voluntarily spend their money to watch his films. So Michael Moore gets rich by satisfying the desires of other people. He entertains other people, and as a reward, he gets rich. That is the very essence of what capitalism is about. What is he kidding? I mean, if this was a socialist country, what would happen is the minister of entertainment would be figuring out what documentaries are made. They would hire Michael Moore and tell him, this is the documentary you're going to produce, and it would produce it, and then people would be forced to watch it whether they were entertained or not. This is the very essence of capitalism. The thing is, Michael Moore doesn't really understand what capitalism is, and he continues to prove that as the interview continues. Here's cut number 4.
When you say the word capitalism, you have to talk about it in its current sense. You can't talk about the old days or the way maybe, the Adam Smith, the sort of old capitalism.
America fundamentally built on a form of capitalist dream. I mean, the idea that you can come from nowhere,
the idea that
you
worked hard and you prospered, and then everybody else prospered. And not only that, as you prospered, the wealth was shared with your employees, with the government. Everybody had a piece of the pie. You, who started the business or invented the light bulb or whatever, you got a bigger piece of the pie, and you know what? Nobody cared because you invented the light bulb. That was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, exactly. You see, the problem is, and here I have a little sympathy for Michael Moore. He shows maybe a little bit more intelligence than people would give him credit for. See, he is calling what we have today capitalism. What we have today is not capitalism. It's crony capitalism. It's fascism. It's socialism. It is not the capitalism of Adam Smith. He is correct. But to say that capitalism is bad because the current system is bad is disingenuous, because we don't have capitalism. And really what Michael Moore is protesting is not capitalism, but what government has morphed it into through its intervention. Anyway, here's some more of this exchange, cut number 5.
Where did it go wrong?
Well, it went wrong because people, first of all, we started rewarding people not for making things or inventing things. We didn't reward them for their idea or their labor anymore. We reward people for making money off money and moving money around and dividing up mortgages 1,000 times over, selling it to China, and trying to figure out how can I make more money off this money, then make more money off that money, and it becomes this shell game that nobody ever knows really where the actual cash is that we're spinning around here trying to make money off it.
He's right. He's right about that. But why is this happening? How did we move away to production to an economy based on speculation? That's the Federal Reserve. That's cheap money. That's where this is coming from. Maybe Michael Moore really has a lot more with Ron Paul that he understands, because the reason the economy is so screwed up, the reason we don't have capitalism anymore, is because of the Federal Reserve, because big government has destroyed it. See, Michael Moore here is actually admitting that he likes capitalism, only he doesn't think it is capitalism. He thinks that what we had before is something else, and that what we have now is capitalism. No, what we had before was capitalism. The system that Michael Moore seems to like was capitalism. The system that he detests is not. It is crony capitalism. It is socialism, fascism, whatever kind of ism you want to put on it, but it is there because of the very big government and big government policies that Michael Moore actually supports. That's the big irony. The reason things are so screwed up is because Michael Moore is supporting the ideology that screwed them up and the people that screwed them up. Actually, we have some more of this, but we're going to have to hold off. Maybe I'll play it in the final half-hour clip. We got a break coming up, and then we have a very interesting guest, a businessman, an entrepreneur, who is going to discuss how the government put him and his employees out of business. So stick around. It'll be a great interview. This is Peter Schiff on SchiffRadio.com.
The Peter Schiff Show.
You make no friends in the pits and you take no prisoners. 1 minute you're up $500,000 in soybeans, and the next, boom, your kids don't go to college and they've repossessed your Bentley. Are you with me?
The revolution starts now.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Turn those machines back on!
You are about to enter the Peter Schiff Show.
Show me the money!
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The Peter Schiff Show is on. Call in now. 855-4-SHIP. That's 855-472-4433.
I don't know when they decided that they wanted to make a virtue out of selfishness.
Your money, your stories, your freedom. The Peter Schiff Show.
This is Peter Schiff here at SchiffRadio.com. Hour 2 is underway, and joining the conversation is Artie Hasengawa. I don't know, maybe I got that pronounced right or not. I'll find out in a minute. But Artie is an entrepreneur who, I guess, saw my congressional testimony and felt my pain and sent me an email describing similar circumstances where jobs he had created were destroyed by government regulation. So we thought we'd bring him on the show to hear his tale of woe. Artie, welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning. How are you? Good,
good. And how did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah, it's Artie Hasegawa. It's pretty close.
All right, well, great. Well, Artie, so tell me what happened. What kind of business did you create?
Okay, I'm what you would call a classic serial entrepreneur. One of my businesses I started was back in 2004, a home health care service firm out in New Jersey. What I discovered, though, was that what looks appealing to the eye in terms of doing this from a passionate, caring standpoint turned out to be a nightmare in execution because of the myriad and the layers of bureaucracy that the state of New Jersey government had put upon this type of business and industry in general. What happened was I was working on starting this business as a standard staffing style business, got all the licenses, got my agent's license, got all the business licenses and all the regulatory requirements met to get everything started. However, as I started running into this business model, I found that the profit margins were nowhere near as great as I originally thought, which actually wasn't really the main driver anyway. It was just the fact that I wanted to do this as a caring point to benefit a lot of adults who are coming out of the East European sector who needed jobs. And
were your profit margins compromised by the high cost of the regulations involved in the business?
Absolutely. Bottom line was, here you are dealing with all kinds of rules, federal HIPAA privacy regulations, board of nursing regulations, attorney general regulations, consumer affairs regulations, of course, the standard federal labor, tax, payroll laws, the state corporate payroll tax, unemployment, disability. Put it all together. Nobody knows, in government that a lot of the laws they create are conflictive of each other.
Now, your business, just let me understand, your business. So you were hiring people to provide at-home health care for people who needed additional help in that area?
That's correct, and it was private pay. In other words, we didn't accept Medicare because that's a whole other story of of regulations, and we just wanted to try to start rolling this out.
Now, initially, you were finding a lot of demand for your services. How many customers did your company have at its peak?
Well, at its peak, we were dealing with about I put it this way. I was payrolling over about 250 people, 14 staff, and I realized the only way to keep this thing going was to actually put the staff outside of the country.
Well, let me just backtrack, but I want to backtrack for a second. So you had about 250 employees. How many customers were paying you?
I would say at any given point, it was a really small business, about 100, 150 customers.
But so how do you have 250 employees for 150 customers? I'm not sure were the employees part-timers or?
But a combination of full-time, part-time. You're talking about live-in caregivers, so they're actually living with the elderly. They're providing senior home care for people who are they're on their last enjoyment.
Okay, so the customers are paying you, in turn, are paying the workers who are working in their homes.
Correct. And therefore,
all right, but in any event, but the point is you've created a business where you had customers who needed your service and who were voluntarily willing to spend their money to purchase your service. You were able to hire people to help you provide that service. But the whole thing fell apart because the government made it too expensive for you to deliver the services. Is that basically what happened?
Absolutely.
So if there were no regulations, let's assume that we had a capitalist economy where you didn't need any regulations. If you simply, any of them, if there were no licensing, if you didn't have to get all those permits, if you could just start this business from scratch and provide services to anybody who wants it without any of these regulations, how big do you think your business could be right now?
Very successful, very beneficial on a social front as well as economic front. I think everybody would win. It would be a win-win situation, absolutely, no doubt.
And the only reason that everybody is now losing is because government bureaucrats got in the way and made it too expensive for you to operate.
There is no business model in this industry for home care in New Jersey, period.
And but that's because of the rules and regulations. You take those rules and regulations away, and the business would thrive, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Too many regulations, and they think they know what they're doing. They don't. They absolutely do not.
Do you think there's an agenda here? Is there somebody that you're competing with? Are these regulators basically after you to protect some other constituency that would be hurt by competition from firms like yours?
Well, after I had, incidents of threats, not just death threats from certain factions of competition, large competition as well, I had a feeling there's some protected interests at hand who had passed and helped influence to pass some of these regulations that made it very, very difficult. There's a glass door, basically.
Yeah, most regulations, the pretext behind the regulations is we got to stop people from exploiting their customers. We have to protect our customers from ruthless, unscrupulous businessmen like you who might just rip them off and rob them blind. And so we need to protect the public from the ruthless businessman. That's the pretext. But what really is the driving force behind the regulation is a vested interest that is threatened by competition from an innovative competitor, and the regulation is there to stymie that competition, to stymie that growth, to protect the entrenched, established companies who end up funding the politicians who are implementing the regulations. So the regulators are almost like thugs. They're kind of like, mafia henchmen that go out there and shake down and extract protection money from the rest of the community, only it's all done legally through the government. Anyway, I want to get back after the break and talk about what you have done. You mentioned that you were outsourcing some work overseas. I'm going to find out how that's going. So stick around. This is the Peter Schiff Show on SchiffRadio.com.
The Peter Schiff Show. To President Obama, Secretary Geithner, Madam Pelosi, and all of the socialist econ professors across America. We're sorry. We're sorry. Peter Schiff is back on the air.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Peter Schiff, online with businessman, self-described serial entrepreneur Artie Hasgawa, talking about his experience with his home health care business. So, Artie, I want to go backtrack to what we were discussing. So, you built up the business. You had a customer base that was growing. You had a staff. You had employees. Everything was great. And then you realized that the problem was you couldn't make a profit because the government had made it so expensive with all the rules and regulations. So take me through the steps. So what did you do next? How did your business change as a result of these revelations?
Well, what I realized that I needed to do is operate like one of those big businesses like GE, where I had to implement some very, very streamlined service models for administering this, because a lot of my money was actually going into defense and conflict resolution and legal representation with cooperating with the government according to the rules. And one main part of this was to basically just decide to reduce my risks and put a lot of my office staff abroad, my human resources, my IT support, anything I could, I put them abroad, outside of the country, because it was less expensive, less risk.
And so, is this company are you still in business today?
No, I closed that one up, but I learned a lot from it, and now I'm doing a whole different line of business. I'm in management consulting, which is basically to help outside entrepreneurs who want to start businesses in this country to understand the possible pitfalls that they would not otherwise realize in their own country.
So in other words, what you did is you initially tried to survive by outsourcing some of your jobs to other countries, but even that wasn't enough to overcome the cost of the regulations that you still were dealing with for the part of your business that was in the U.S.?
Right, Peter, because you have to kind of start thinking about why you're getting investigated, why are you getting audited. I mean, this business was only around for about 2 years at the time. In those 2 years, we were audited probably about 40 to 50 times, at which point we won every single one. They couldn't find anything on us. It was just harassment. It was just harassment because the government had to establish their existence by enforcing the laws, by replying to some possible consumer complaints that they may have had, or competitive complaints.
Did they actually have? I mean, what precipitated these investigations? Were any of your customers complaining to the state of New Jersey that you were somehow ripping them off?
No, actually, to be honest with you, it was probably the employees, because they felt that they were not being paid enough, at which point I think I was paying them much more than the competition, which is at this point $12, $13.
Wait, so let me get this straight. Your own employees complained to the state that they didn't think you were paying them enough?
Possibly. We were also dealing with union threats as well at the time.
So, but now you're not paying them anything because they complained, and now the jobs don't exist anymore. I mean, how much were you paying people? What was your average worker earning?
$12, $13 an hour, sometimes $14. It was about $2, $3 an hour higher than the Medicare staff certified aid. We were in the private sector. I thought that they were pretty happy, considering they had a lot of benefits, much more than probably an agency from a secondary caring unit would provide.
And so you were creating jobs, and of course your employees, if they didn't think they were getting paid enough, they were free to quit. Right, I'm assuming that you didn't have a gun to anybody's head, forcing them to take those jobs.
No, not at all. But then, of course, the state would give them unemployment anyway, because their administrative staff was somewhat incompetent, I would have to say. And then the other part was I couldn't hire them quick enough because the law required that they have certain qualifications, and the processing on the state side took 2-3 months. I couldn't hire them fast enough.
Yeah, and of course, this is part of the problem was when you become an employer, the government, basically, takes sides with the employee and allows the employee so much leeway to sue and complain about their employer. The government should not be involved in the employment process at all. It has no place in there because it's a voluntary exchange. And it's like, they don't tell, when you have a marriage, they don't basically, take the side of the husband or the wife and say, look, this is how your partner needs to treat you. This is the duties that need to be done, and the one can penalize the other. I mean, this is a voluntary relationship. Employees and employers come together for mutual benefit. And if one party is not benefiting from the arrangement, they will change the arrangement or they will leave. The free market is what needs to be operating here, not government. Here, government, your employees got in bed with the government to somehow force you to pay them more, and as a result, you pay them nothing because they destroyed the business.
Absolutely. There's a whole protectionist environment going on. I would always actually say let the market sort everything out between the good providers and the bad providers. And the government cannot do the job of sorting that market out. I think that the standards that the government creates is much lower than what people really need for this type of business, and the market can do it naturally.
Yeah, if you are a business, if you don't treat your customers right, you'll lose them to competitors who will. If you don't treat your employees right, you will lose them to competitors who will. The marketplace works until the government interferes and prevents it from working.
Well, government is not exactly. This is the problem. So it doesn't make sense to do this, unless you're a very, very large company. It doesn't make sense to do this.
Now, in your new business, you're trying to help entrepreneurs to understand and overcome the regulatory environment in this country. Is that basically your business?
That's correct. What I found is that there's a need for people who want to start whatever their businesses are. It could be a restaurant. It could be it could be an IT business. They need help with establishing all the required compliance documents for incorporations, for all the legal, accounting, IT aspects of running the business in this country.
Which is unfortunate that they need your help, because the money they're paying you to help them is the money that can't be used to grow the business. I mean, basically what you're saying is you have a business to try to help entrepreneurs overcome all the obstacles that the government has put in their path. If those obstacles weren't there, so many more businesses would be created and so many more businesses would succeed because they wouldn't be there. I mean, your business only failed because of those government barriers. Without those barriers, the business would have thrived, and there would have been plenty of jobs created as a result of that business. But because you couldn't leap over that hurdle, the government raised the bar so high that a business that otherwise would have succeeded ends up failing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so cost prohibitive to start businesses now. You can incorporate for a very small price, but it's all the after effects that you have to really be careful of, because they'll come and bite you in the end if you don't set it up right.
Yeah. And it's risky enough to start a business. People start a business, they risk their savings, they often work long hours for minimal pay or no pay to get it going. Sometimes they have to quit a job where they were getting a secure paycheck in order to take a chance, and then the government takes something that is risky and makes it so much riskier, which means far fewer people are going to take the risk in the first place, and more people who take the risk will end up failing as a result, not because the business didn't work, but because the government didn't work and the regulations prohibited a business that on its own would have flourished and that killed it.
Government should not be in the interest of serving itself in any way. They should be representing the people. It should, they become a legally immune business enterprise of its own, and that's what's dangerous about it.
Yeah. Government should be there to protect private property, to protect individual liberty. It should be neutral in everything else. It shouldn't be sticking its nose into everybody's business, getting in between every contract, every employee and employer, every business and their customers. Let the market sort this out, because we'll all be better off as a result. Anyway, hey, I really appreciate your reaching out and coming on the show, and I wish you good luck with your new business. Anyway, everybody else, we will be back. We've got another half hour coming up here on the Peter Schiff Show on SchiffRadio.com.
The Peter Schiff Show.
Take the sheet off your face, boy. It's a brand new day.
We now return to the Peter Schiff Show.
Call in now, 855-4-SHIFT.
That's 855-472-4433.
Real Radio.
The Peter Schiff Show.
This is Peter Schiff at SchiffRadio.com. We've got some open board if you want to call in, 855-4-SHIFT, 855-4-SCHIFF if you want to give us a call. Hey, as a reminder, it's not too late to sign up for the New Orleans Investment Conference, October 26th through the 29th down in New Orleans, Louisiana. It's a great conference. A lot of great people, including myself, will be speaking at this event. It's always a fun time to be down there. You know, Mark Faber is going to be down there as well, the Aiden sisters. You know, there's some big names. Glenn Beck will be there, Dennis Gartman, a lot of people. And it's a good time, good food, good music, and lots of discussion on the precious metals market. So if you've never been to the conference, definitely try to make a point of coming down. If you've been there, you know what I mean. You know, you might as well come again. October 26th and 29th, go to the Euro-Pacific Capital website. If you sign up through my website, or say that you're signing up because of Peter Schiff, there's a special package. I believe you get a discount. Plus, you also get all 3 copies of my books, How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes, Crash Proof 2.0, and the little book of Bull Moves. You get a free copy included in the price of admission. The books will be there when you get there, and I'll also be available to sign them for you. So another reason to go to the New Orleans conference this year. Again, I want to, before I get to the phone calls, and again, it's 855-4-SCHIFF if you want to call, I want to continue with the last clip of the Michael Moore CNN interview, because I think it is very, very insightful into Michael Moore's thinking. And it shows that he's very confused, but beneath the confusion, there actually exists some understanding that's dying to come out. But let me play this final clip that we hadn't got to. This is clip number 6.
We got so lost. We have been so on the wrong path for quite some time now that the idea of capitalism, there's nothing wrong with you or me or anybody here earning a dollar, working hard, being rewarded for that. Nobody has ever been against that. We're against greed, and we're against the fact that 1% could get 9 slices of the pie, and the other 99% are supposed to fight over the last slice. That is un-American. That is not democracy. It's not Christian or Jewish or Buddhist or Muslim. None of the major religions, in fact, they all say it's probably one of the worst sins you could commit, is to take such a large piece of the pie while others suffer.
Okay, 2 points here. First of all, why is it that the pie has been divided in such an unequitable manner? It's not because of capitalism. Yes, in capitalism, clearly, people who work harder, who are more innovative, enjoy a bigger slice of the pie than people who work not as hard and who are less motivated or less innovative. That's how it's always been. But the benefits of capitalism generally flow more freely to the poor and the middle class than we are experiencing today. But the reason that the workers, the blue-collar workers, are not benefiting as much today as they have in the past is not because of capitalism. It's because of a lack of capitalism. It's because we no longer have capitalism. That's really what Michael Moore is bemoaning, the death of capitalism. Because what he is calling capitalism today is not capitalism. It is the opposite of capitalism. What he described, working hard, making a buck, that's capitalism. But what Wall Street is doing with government money and the Federal Reserve's help is not capitalism. The government micromanaging business with regulations that punish small innovative companies and reward larger entrenched companies and protect them from competition, that's not capitalism. Capitalism is about competition. Now, one thing he also said was that he's against greed. There is nothing wrong with greed. The problem is that government turns the greed into a problem, because when you combine government with greed, that's when you have a problem. When a private businessman is greedy, how does his greed hurt people? It doesn't. If you are an entrepreneur and your sole purpose is to make money, if that's all you care about, right? You just want to make as much money for yourself because that's how greedy you are. How do you do it? Well, you have to figure out what the people want and give it to them. You have to figure out what products do the people desire and how can I make those products and make them cheaper and better than somebody else. And if you succeed in doing that, you will get rich. Now, in the process, you will benefit everybody else. That is the invisible hand that Adam Smith first introduced us to, and it is based on greed. Right? The fact is, when people start thinking not about making money, but about other supposedly more noble things, like simply helping people, it generally backfires because they don't help as many people. The best way to help people is to find the most efficient way to utilize scarce resources to produce the optimal amount of goods that people actually want, that improves their lives and raises their living standards. That greed is good. In that respect, Gordon Gekko was right. But when somebody can combine their greed with government regulation, government protection, central banking, then it doesn't work. And of course, government encourages the wrong kind of greed because they have rules and regulations that take the risk away, that take the fear away. You know, one of the things that keeps greed in check, at least when it comes to speculative activity, is the fear of losing money. Right, yes, everybody wants to make more money, but they don't want to lose the money they already have. And so there is a balance between the two. The government tilts that balance when it comes in and guarantees something. It says, don't worry about the risk. We've got you covered. We've got your back. If you lose money, we'll bail you out. That is what encourages excessive risk-taking based on greed that the free market would have protected us from. Now, yes, are some people who are greedy committing crimes? Are there people who steal money as a result of greed? Yes. These are not businessmen. These are criminals. And crime is against the law, and it has certainly not been repealed. There is plenty of greed-motivated crime going on. Now, do some people commit crimes under the appearance of a legitimate business? Of course, right? Bernie Madoff was a criminal. He was a criminal operating through a business. Yes, that does exist, but that is the exception. That is not the rule when it comes to capitalism. And in fact, capitalism will squash entrepreneurs that steal from their customers because they won't get a lot of customers. You don't grow your business by stealing from them. You know, you grow your business by offering better services to your customers than your competitors. That's how you get bigger and bigger and bigger. And Bernie Madoff is out of business now, right? He's failed, right, because he was cheating his customers. Now, the question is, look, I think if the SEC and FINRA weren't there, I think he would have failed a lot sooner. I think the government bureaucracy ended up protecting him, perpetuating him, legitimizing him. I think because of the bureaucrats, there was less due diligence done in the private sector than would have been on the case had it been more of a caveat emptor environment, had people been more worried and had not surrendered the due diligence to government regulators that basically did not do the job of protecting the public. They did the job of protecting Bernie Madoff from the public, and his clients, his investors, were the losers. But again, there aren't, the brokerage industry isn't full of Bernie Madoffs. Right? There's far more honest people. And that's true in every business. You're always going to get the guy that cuts corners and cheats his customers. And you know what? He doesn't go anywhere. How did Walmart become so successful? Did Walmart become so successful? Did Sam Walton become the richest man in the world because he screwed his customers? No. He became the richest man in the world because he pleased his customers, because he gave his customers better selection of merchandise at lower prices. He succeeded in raising his own standard. Now, was Sam Walton motivated by some altruistic desire to lower prices? No. He probably was motivated by his own desire to make money for himself. He said, how can I get really rich? And he figured out a way to get really rich. And a lot of people benefited. If he cut corners, if he decided, hey, I'm going to screw my customers, I'm going to give them shoddy merchandise, and I'm going to rip them off, how many Walmart stores would he have opened with that business model? Might he opened up a few? Yeah, sure, he might have opened up a few. He might have stole from some people. But would he have had the empire that was built? Of course not. It wouldn't be anywhere close. And in fact, because he built up a brand that people trusted for a good shopping experience, probably a lot of other shysters who might have tried to start up a business failed. They couldn't compete with Walmart. They couldn't rip off their customers because competition from Walmart protected them. And that's what we need. Right? We need more greed, Michael Moore, not less greed. You know, maybe Michael Moore isn't making his films because he wants to make money. Maybe he's making his films because he simply wants to do good. Maybe the money is just the icing on Michael Moore's cake. I don't know. But there are plenty of filmmakers who are making entertaining movies because they want to make money for themselves. And, of course, the directors, the writers, the actors, everybody who participates in the process of filmmaking is trying to make a buck for themselves, right? They're in it for themselves. They're greedy. But there's nothing wrong with that greed if it produces entertainment that somebody values and somebody is willing to pay for. You know, and the fact that he fears greed, where Michael Moore needs to fear greed is when it's politicians. See, because politicians can do a lot of harm. See, politicians, they're just as greedy as anybody else, but they can use the power of government, the power of brute force to get rich at everybody else's expense. The entrepreneur gets rich by helping people. The government gets rich by hurting people. So that's what Michael Moore should be rallying against. Greed in government, not greed in the private sector. Anyway, we'll be back. This is Peter Schiff on SchiffRadio.com.
We're against greed, and we're against the fact that 1% could get 9 slices of the pie.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
The Peter Schiff Show. Since the Peter Schiff Show was last on the air, the national debt added another $7.89 million.
Luckily, Peter's intelligence is growing twice as fast.
That's incredible.
Welcome back to your source of sanity in an insane world. It's the Peter Schiff Show.
This is Peter Schiff, SchiffRadio.com. We are back. Hey, I was about to go to the phones. I don't know what happened to my caller. In fact, it looks like I only had one caller. He was there. I averted my eyes for a second, and the board went blank. Anyway, so we still have, this is the final segment. There are no calls on hold. So if anybody does want to get a quick question in, they can give me a call, 855-4-SHIFT, 855-4-SCHIFF. You know, just reading a news story during the break about New Jersey governor and non-presidential candidate Chris Christie, who is acting like a candidate, if not officially announcing that he is one. He is speaking in California today. I mean, he's a New Jersey governor, but he's speaking out at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley. And then he's got a bunch of fundraising dinners or events going on out in California. And he's also swinging through on a looks like a several state tour of fundraising and speaking opportunities. So he might not be a candidate, but he seems to be acting like one. There is a lot of desire, it seems, on the part of the media anyway, or maybe some people within the Republican Party, to bring Chris Christie into this race. I'm not really sure why he is so much of a better candidate than some of the other candidates who are already in the race, but apparently that is the case. And we'll see what's going to happen. I think if Chris Christie is going to throw his hat into the ring, he needs to do it pretty soon because this campaign season is well underway. Or who knows? You never know. Maybe he's playing a strategy kind of like an old rope-a-dope Muhammad Ali strategy. Let all the other candidates punch themselves out, make a bunch of gaffes and mistakes, and then come in kind of later in the day as a fresh face and be the beneficiary of the fact that some of the other candidates have disappointed their supporters and then show up and then kind of be the savior. I don't know. Maybe that's a strategy, or maybe you could take him at his word, because every time he's been asked, he has come back in no uncertain terms, I am not running, I am not running. And again, maybe he's just playing hard to get, right? Maybe he wants to run, but he doesn't want to act like it's his idea. He wants to act like he was dragged into the race, kicking and screaming, but for the good of the country, he decided to run for president because of overwhelming support that he run. And I think that he's doing a better job in New Jersey than his predecessor. He is doing a better job in New Jersey than Governor Malloy is doing here in Connecticut. So don't get me wrong, I would rather have Chris Christie as my governor than Malloy, obviously I would rather have him as president than Barack Obama. But I do not have any illusion that if we put Chris Christie in the White House, that we're going to have any big success at shrinking the size of government on a federal level. And so I would not be an enthusiastic supporter of the Chris Christie campaign based on the knowledge I have thus far, although I would in fact vote for him over Barack Obama if he were the president, if he were the Republican nominee. But look, we've got Ron Paul in the race, although I guess the establishment does it like that. They can't get their arms around Kane for whatever reason. Romney, people like Romney, but Romney still has a lot of baggage. Look at the straw poll in Florida. Romney claims, well, I didn't really try to win, but of course he's been campaigning down there for years and years, and he had his operatives on the ground. They were making calls, they were there, and he couldn't get any more than 14 or 15% of the vote. And Kane comes down there and campaigns for a couple of weeks and courts the voters and gets 35%. So obviously there are some problems with Mitt Romney, even among a lot of the Republicans, and among the probably some of the independents as well. So the Republican Party, they know that President Obama is in fact beatable. I guess they just want to make sure they beat him. Hey, meanwhile, I really wasn't talking about this story on the show. I kept running out of time. But apparently we just dodged another government shutdown bullet, although temporarily. Although personally, I think shutting the government down is a lot better than letting it continue to destroy the country. But apparently the Republicans and Democrats were arguing over bailing out FEMA, which was out of money and needed to have its coffers refilled. And apparently there were some Republicans that wanted to put some strings on that for a change and say, well, if we're going to put more money into FEMA's pockets, we got to take the money out of some other pockets here in government so that we don't simply run up the deficit. Lost in the discussion was probably the more philosophical debate of why even have FEMA. What did the nation do prior to FEMA? Because, of course, FEMA wasn't part of the Constitution, and we certainly had disasters back then in the 1800s and 1900s. We had natural disasters. How did we deal with them? In fact, we had plenty of natural disasters in the 20th century. We went through the majority of the 20th century without FEMA. So how did we do it without them? And why do we need them? That is a better program since they were out of money. Right? Maybe we should have had a discussion on why are we infusing more money into an agency that has basically failed, which is the truth for just about every government agency that we create. We create the Department of Energy because we want to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. And now, with the Department of Energy, we're twice as dependent on foreign oil as we were before the department was created. Now, obviously, based on its own measures, based on the very reason that we created the department, it's an abject failure. So why is it still there? The problem is when the government creates a program and it fails, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And they'll find other reasons. I'm sure now if you talk to somebody at the Department of Energy, the goal of the department is not to reduce our dependence on foreign oil, because obviously it's failed in that. So what they do is they try to come up with other reasons to justify the continued existence of the agency instead of just admitting that it was a failure, that it was a mistake, that it backfired, that it didn't work, and let's just end the misery. Let's get rid of the department. Let's return the money, the resources to the people so that they can be used more productively. Instead, no, it perpetuates. And so FEMA is going to be there. And Department of Energy and all of these government departments are going to grow and grow and grow until they ultimately destroy the economy, because they really are the parasite on the American economy. And the problem is the parasites are thriving right now, but the hosts that they thrive on are dying. And of course, eventually, when the parasite succeeds in killing the host, the parasite dies as well. And that is coming. Everybody. Anyway, that's it for today. It's been a quick 2 hours here on the Peter Schiff Show. Make sure and tune in again tomorrow at schiffradio.com, the gold standard in talk radio.